Well, good evening. If you've just joined us, it's Sue Marchant here in the seat. And I'm pleased to welcome in our first guest tonight because we've got a packed show. And her name is Erin Hutchin. And she is part of the show People of the Eye and the work of the Deaf and Hearing Ensemble. So good evening, Erin. Lovely to have you here. I was just saying, like off air, I remember as a small girl, a small child even, and it's a long time ago this, but we used to have this programme. Yeah, well, no, we used to have this programme on telly called Listen Here. And it kind of it made you aware of the fact that yes, there were deaf people in, and you'd wonder how they could hear it. And then it was the concept of sign language and all of those things. But then I said to you, well, I don't think we have it anymore.
That's right. I mean, I've not heard of it, but I mean, I grew up in New Zealand, so I probably had quite a different sort of experience of television. But a lot of people that come to see the show remark on that if it is a world that they're not part of, if they don't know many deaf people or they've never been exposed to sign language, that it's something they find absolutely fascinating. They think, well, this is just not something I've come across before.
Yeah, I went up to Peterborough actually to the Deaf Foundation up there, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
And they were having an open day, and they asked me to visit, and I just found it fascinating. Yeah. Really interesting stories, because it was somewhere where they could come and share any problems that they had, and a very, very interesting place. And I think they'd had some children in need money to support them. So great work going on there.
That's great.
But you're out there with a whole show, a whole vista of entertainment.
Exactly. Well, I suppose one of the things that people don't realise is that people who are not in the deaf world is that there is this sort of cultural side to deafness, which is something that I was lucky enough to become part of because my sister is deaf. And that's where the idea for the play came from. But this idea that, the deaf identity, that there's a language and that there's a culture that kind of is behind that. So it's not just necessarily seen as a disability for people that are part of that deaf world.
It's another way of communicating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something that we can learn as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's certainly enriched my life.
Sure. So the Deaf Hearing Ensemble, how long has it been going?
So the theatre company has been going for about 4 years. I joined it at the end of 2014. So I've worked as a freelance actor for a while, and I had been back in New Zealand at my sister's wedding. And it was a really beautiful celebration interpreted by this incredible sign language interpreter. And there was a half deaf, half hearing. And it was the first time that I'd really thought, this is such a theatrical, performative language that I know. Like, why am I not using it in my own acting life in the plays that I create? So I came back, and I was lucky enough to find the Deaf and Hearing Ensemble and became part of it. So the company's been going around 4 years. Started with the Royal Shakespeare Company, actually. So the very first project that we did was a sort of exploration of how you can translate Shakespeare's work into sign language, and it was a week-long project with the RSC.
Wow.
And that was the sort of birth of the company.
Wow, I bet that was really interesting.
Yeah, really fascinating. And in fact, a project that we've got coming up that we're trying to develop is a version of Macbeth that has a deaf actor and a hearing actor playing Macbeth, and a deaf actor and a hearing actor playing Lady Macbeth. And it's all about that fracturing between the characters using 2 languages and 2 actors. So it's like really exciting, sort of sexy stuff.
Awesome. Now you are coming to, you've got a couple in our kind of area, haven't you?
Yeah,
we have. You're coming to the Seagull Theatre.
Yes.
On the 16th of November, which is a Thursday night, and then I saw that you were somewhere else. Where else did I think you were? And I thought, you're here twice at Stamford Arts Centre.
That's right, near Peterborough.
Yep, on the 20th of November. So you've developed this play about your sister's wedding.
That's right. Well, it's really about my family, I suppose. It's an autobiographical story, which took me a little while to come around to that concept. I had written the play and started working on it, and it was about this fictional family. And then, one day the director said, well, let's be honest, it's about your family. So I've sort of really taken that and run with it. And it's about what happened when my sister was born. It took about 2 years for her to be diagnosed, because back then they didn't have newborn hearing screening. And my mum knew that there was something that was amiss. And they did a lot of they tell us the story of the hearing test they used to do at home, and they'd run up behind her and bang saucepans together and things like that, which is sort of quite humorous but quite sad in a way. And then when she was diagnosed, they were told not to learn sign language, because that was advice that was given in those days, because they thought that it would interfere with a child's ability to learn to speak. And in fact, it's still given.
So how long ago are we talking about? When was your sister born?
So my sister was born in 1982.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the 80s. But it's actually still not uncommon advice today with this sort of medical model of disability when people have cochlear implants and it's sort of seen as something to fix. But actually, I mean, I believe that along with, of course, having hearing aids and cochlear implants, there's also this another language and culture that you can be a part of. And that's the route that my parents went down. And I think that's been like a really good thing for me and my sister. So the show is all about their experience and their journey. There's a sign language class that the audience participates in, which everybody always has lots of fun with, and then it really just focuses on the relationship between my sister and I and what having this language and this experience really gave to us, the struggles and also the beautiful things.
Okay, well, we've got the hearing test, which is part of the music. I guess it is music in a way, isn't it? Because it's sound to us, a soundscape to us. So let's have a listen to this, because if you've ever had a hearing test, and I know when you're a child, they give you hearing tests, don't they?
That's it, and that's exactly what it's modelled on. So actually in the show, what happened, my sister and I loved video games, and so the way that works in the show is that it starts as a conventional hearing test, and then it turns into like a Super Mario Brothers abstract style game, because that's what it felt like to us. Yeah. And sort of one character, my character's really achieving and the other character isn't, and it's all about that relationship. So yeah, we worked with an incredible soundscape artist who made this really unusual piece of music, I suppose you could call it.
So, hearing test from a theatre show. Erin.
Quite unusual, isn't it?
It is a bit unusual. And I think the interesting thing is that it took all the scientists and the scientific people over there, because we're at BBC Radio Cambridgeshire, have gone, oh, hello. Yeah. It's takes you back to some of those sounds that you remember during that time. And having a hearing test was quite interesting at school. I hope people are thinking back to all of that. Yeah. And again, exploring the fact that I can picture you hearing that, I can picture you now and your sister playing a game.
Yes, exactly.
And picking up on the rhythm together. That would be my thought about it.
Exactly. And also the fact that we sort of used to cheat, because she would obviously look at me, and when I raised my hand or dropped the toy or whatever it was that you were meant to do, then she would do it. And eventually they caught on to that, and they wouldn't let us do the hearing test together anymore because it would skew the results somewhat. But what's quite interesting about how this was created is our soundscape artist actually used a lot of bass tones so the deaf audience can feel it, but also something called infrasonic tones, which are actually outside of the realm of human hearing, but they can be felt, so they vibrate your skeleton. So they're totally accessible to deaf and hearing, and they actually get used a lot in like scary films, because that sort of feeling you get when you've got the hairs on the back of your neck sort of stand up. They're using infrasonic tones there.
Cool. All right.
So the scientists will like that.
More from Erin in just a moment. I'm here with Erin Hutchin, and she is from the Deaf Hearing Ensemble, the DH Ensemble. They have a show going out called People of the Eye, and it's coming to Lowestoft and Stamford. And so, how long does the show last?
The show is about an hour long. Yeah, so we actually developed it in mind of like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is where we took it last year. And most shows that are at the Fringe are about 60 minutes. So I think that's about a nice amount of time to be in a theatre space and not get too tired of what's going on and not have to have an interval. So.
Yeah, sure. Somebody sent me a little email here. Where have I got it? Hang on a minute. Right. Mark in Bletchley Towers says, "Wow, sounds very much Delia Derbyshire type stuff crossed with Joe Meek. I'm in the zone with this," says Mark.
Oh, fantastic.
In Bletchley Towers. There you go. Thank you, Mark, for being in touch. So how, if you're a hearing person, how are you going to see and hear it?
Well, the show itself, so it's a traditional play that's in spoken English, but we also integrate sign language. We have creative captioning. So rather than just the captions or the subtitles that would be up above like you'd have at the opera, we've really tried to run with the idea that they will kind of convey meaning and tone as well as just what is actually being said. And we also incorporate sound and video projection, so it's completely accessible for deaf and hearing and hard of hearing.
Right, okay. And you said that there's a hearing test for the audience to join in.
There's a sign language class that the audience is invited to participate in as well. Nothing too scary. You won't be asked to do anything terrifying, but you might leave just having learnt a few signs, and people absolutely love that.
I bet, yeah, because it's always good to have a learning experience. So you went on, you did all right at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival then with this?
We did. We were in Edinburgh last year at the Fringe.
Gosh.
For the whole month, every day. It was an absolutely brilliant experience, but I mean, it's terrifying taking a show to the Fringe because you create something that you care about so much and that you get brilliant feedback on, and then you take it up to a festival where there's 3,000 other shows that you're sort of competing against. But at the same time, it's a fantastic opportunity, and that's how we booked this tour. Actually, we had programmers come along, love the show, and book it into their theatres.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, fair play to Lowestoft then, to the theatre up there.
Lovely.
Yeah, which is it's rather special as well. That's it's the Seagull Theatre, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Gorgeous theatre.
Yeah, the Seagull Theatre, Thursday the 16th of November. It's going to Leicester as well, to Attenborough Arts Centre. Monday the 20th of November, Stamford Arts Centre again, which is lovely, and then across to Oxford. So that's pretty cool for the bit of a mini tour going on there.
It's a lovely wee tour. Yeah, we just did a week in London as well, which was great.
Okay, and so what for the future then? You're going to be writing more plays in this vein?
Yes, I mean, I hope so. It's the first time I've written something autobiographical, so I'm sure my family is hoping that I'm not going to be writing anymore, but I have started writing another play that's nothing to do with my family, so we'll see where that goes.
And as well, I guess that for a deaf audience as well, they're going, good, at last there's something for me that
Absolutely.
I can identify with.
Because there's a lot of theatre now which is absolutely fantastic, that they may have an interpreter or it may have captions, but it is very much divorced from the action of the piece, and you might have an interpreter standing on the side or have captions up at the top, and it feels a lot like a tennis match for the deaf person who's trying to follow the action of what's happening on stage, but then also look at the captions or the interpreter. And this is something that where we're like, this is for you, this is also for a hearing audience, of course, but first and foremost we really want it to be for the deaf audience, and the reaction we have gotten is overwhelming.
Fantastic. Well, all power to you. If people want to find out more about you guys, where can they find you?
So they can find us on our website, which is www.thedeafandhearingensemble.com.
Are you the only theatre company of this ilk?
There's a few others. There's a fantastic theatre company called Definitely Theatre that's been around for about 20 years doing a lot of brilliant work. They focus more on a deaf audience, but in recent times they have started to widen that to deaf and hearing audiences as well. And there are a few other fantastic companies, but it's sort of quite a new thing, I think. But accessible theatre, it's very popular at the moment and seems to really be a burgeoning industry. So I think that's great.
Yeah, well, we all like to get out. Erin, it's been lovely meeting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.